And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, March 17th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So we have a lot to cover today. So we're going to start off the show. We will talk about the news that broke late last night as I'm getting ready to go to bed. And that is the Bengals agreeing to contract extensions to not just one receiver, but two receivers. Both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have agreed to new deals. We will talk about the specifics of those deals, the impact that it has on the Bengals. So that'll be how we start off the show here. Then we will get into talking about what I was originally going to start out with, and that is talking about Cooper Kupp signing with the Seahawks over the weekend. We'll talk about the impact of that move. We will get into looking at the bracket for March Madness. Games will start tomorrow. The first 4 games will start tomorrow. And then everything else starts on Thursday. So we'll get into that. So, some of the 16 seeds, 11 seeds haven't been finalized yet. So once those matchups conclude, then obviously I will do my bracket. But yeah, everything starts on Thursday. So we got March Madness starting this week. We also have baseball officially starting this week with the Tokyo series. We will talk about that in the fourth part of the show with the Dodgers and the Cubs. We talked a little bit about it last week, but I'll get into it more today. Expectations for the Cubs going into year 2 with Craig Counsell as their manager. And then in the final part of the show, we will talk about the Rams. I will do a season overview on their season and, what offseason moves have they made so far and, what are the expectations for them going into next year. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So it was late last night, and you were hearing reports constantly that they were in heavy negotiations with both receivers, the Bengals were. And all offseason, we've really been hearing about Joe Burrow's really been saying, hey, we're going to try to keep all these guys. He made that appearance on First Take talking about it, that we have the capability of keeping everybody. And all of us on the outside are saying, nah, that's not going to happen. And I've been saying constantly that Jamar Chase is going to stay. T. Higgins is going to be the one that's going to end up getting traded. But that was not the case here. You have both receivers signing back with the Bengals. Now, Jamar Chase, there was no doubt. With T. Higgins, I had doubt. We all had doubt. But in terms of the specifics of the deals, so we've constantly been hearing the phrase highest paid non-quarterback. We've seen Max Crosby get that deal. Then all of a sudden, Myles Garrett gets that deal. And now Jamar Chase gets that deal. So he agrees to a deal that makes him the highest paid non-quarterback. So the specifics of the deal, signs to a 4-year deal. Both deals were for 4 years. Jamar Chase, a 4-year, $161 million contract extension with $112 million guaranteed. And he is coming off of a great season. Won the Triple Crown. He had a career high in receiving yards with 1,700 yards receiving, 17 touchdowns. And now he is locked in through the 2029 season. And as for T. Higgins, didn't get paid as much, but still got a big contract. 4 years, $115 million. Missed some time last year due to injury. He has missed some time due to injury over the course of his career. But when he's on the field, very productive. Even with him missing time, he still had 10 touchdowns last season. And you look at Joe Burrow and his stats when T. Higgins is on the field. So I thought I had him saved here. Oh, here it is. So Joe Burrow with and without T. Higgins last season. So with T. Higgins, the Bengals were 8-4. Joe Burrow's completion percentage was 72%. Yards per attempt was 7.9, and his passer rating was 111.5. That's with T. Higgins on the field. And then without T. Higgins on the field, the Bengals were 1-4. Joe Burrow's completion percentage was 67%. Yards per attempt was 6.8, and his passer rating was 101.8. So the numbers are still good, but obviously they're a lot better when T. Higgins is on the field. Now, is this a good thing? It's good for the Bengals offense. All right, they also re-signed Mike Gesicki, so the offense is still intact. The problem is the defense. That is what the issue was with this team last season. And that is the main reason why they missed the playoffs. Now, they also did get off to a slow start. You know, if they don't lose to the Patriots week one, how many times have I said it? Both on well, really, I was saying that constantly on the football podcast when I was doing it. But that was the main problem, was the defense. But if you don't lose to the Patriots week one, they're in the playoffs. And who knows what happens. Now, when you take a look at the cap hits for the Bengals in 2025, when you take Joe Burrow's AAV, Jamar Chase's AAV, and T. Higgins' AAV, it equals up to $115.1 million. The Bengals' entire defense is $79 million. The entire defense, compared to 3 players. That is going to be a problem. The Bengals really have to nail their picks in the draft. They need to go all defense with their draft. Offensive line, maybe. But defense has to be the priority with this draft. Because we could go into next year, and yes, it's going to be great to watch Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and what that offense can do. But that defense is not going to be good. And especially if they're not able to work out a deal with Trey Hendrickson, because now it seems like he's going to be the next guy that they're trying to get a deal done with. And you hope if you're a Bengals fan that they do get it done, so he's able to stick around. But if you end up losing him, that's another guy you have to replace. And unless you nail your draft picks, it's not going to be good. And I don't think if they end up trading Trey Hendrickson, it's going to be real hard to replace him because he led the league in sacks. Whoever they draft is not going to lead the NFL in sacks next year. And on top of that, you had Sam Hubbard retiring. Now, I know they re-signed B.J. Hill, so you still have him on the defensive line, but, you need to do more. So, look, both guys deserve to get paid. And the Bengals are a team, they're not accustomed to paying guys, usually. Now, I think they should have just let T. Higgins go from a financial standpoint, and then you try to bring in another receiver that's cheaper, but this was also to please their starting quarterback. Because, if they somehow mess this up for Joe Burrow, where, you let T. Higgins go and then things don't work out with Jamar Chase, well, Joe Burrow's not going to want to play with the Bengals. You think maybe he wants out. Now, that's just speculation. But they got the deals done. Now it's all about focusing on the defense. It really is. And look, if they didn't get off to a slow start last year, they're in the playoffs. Despite all the things we talked about with the defense. But Mike just fell over here. But Yeah, the margin for error was so small for the Bengals last year because Joe Burrow would turn the ball over in crucial moments, and that would be the difference in some of these games. The Chiefs game, sack fumble, return for a touchdown by the Chiefs. Now, the Bengals still had a chance to win that game, but there was that pass interference call at the end. Then you had the Ravens game the first time. Joe Burrow throws a pick. They end up losing that game. Now, they were up by a couple of scores against the Ravens the second time, and the offense stalled out, and that allowed the Ravens to get back in the game. They end up winning by a point. Bengals went for two at the end. They don't get it. The Patriots game is still just a head scratcher. How did they lose that game? But it happens. They cannot afford a slow start next season. They can't. I am worried about this defense going forward. It was something that I thought they would overcome regardless. Like, I didn't go into last year thinking the Bengals defense was elite or anything. But I just thought, they got that playoff pedigree with Joe Burrow. But they got off to a slow start, and they couldn't overcome that, and the defense just did not help them out. Played better down the stretch, but they also didn't play some good teams. I mean, they had the Titans on their schedule. They played the Browns. So we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the new deals for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we will talk about what I was originally going to open up with, and that is Cooper Kupp signing with the Seahawks. We will talk about the impact of that move. I'll give you my thoughts on it when we return. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.